This is Casey Phelps, and I am doing the participation video option number 2. We're reviewing a campus professional development plan or campus improvement plan. In my position, that's going to be part of the improvement plan as the technology instructional person for my campuses. And I want to identify some timing elements and funding and evaluating that goes on with how we view our resources through people or funding that we put into our professional development as far as technology goes on the campuses. And for my 9 campuses, I am the sole technology instructor, and I take care of and facilitate the campus technology improvement plans. I work with my principals every year at the beginning of the year, pulling up a plan. I give a survey out to the staff, and I look for what they're interested in learning about and try and get as much buy-in as I can so that we can integrate within the curriculum and really focus the technology professional development to suit their needs and the students' needs to help us raise our student achievement, which is our ultimate goal. And so, being that I'm the one who primarily does that, I usually go by 6 weeks, and I facilitate the professional development from that point on. Each time I look at how the staff viewed the subject matter, and we go forward with the new learning as we go, and then I present on each 6 weeks a topic. And so the first 6 weeks might be iPads and using them within the classroom. For iPads, I will start with the grade level and go through their planning periods or after school whenever they feel comfortable meeting with me, and we will look at the standards that they're trying to teach and what apps we have that would facilitate that learning. And we want to really make sure that we're focusing on the curriculum and the needs of those individual students and teachers. So, and what technology they have access to, because not every campus facilitates their technology the same way. Some have elementary, early childhood labs, and then the upper elementary labs. Some say that all of the labs and laptop carts are for 3rd grade and above because they're TAKS or STAR tested, and so they use the resources depending on how the principal and the staff has already accepted those terms and improvement plans. And so we have to work within those confines as well. As far as funding goes, I have no budget, so we really don't, because I'm already a salaried employee and these are my 9 campuses, this is the expectation that I will do this. So if we wanted to have someone else come in, we would be utilizing the other technology resources as far as the 5 that are in my cohort of colleagues that go out to do the professional development, as well as what we do with hardware, software, and the process to ensure that the technology continues to work as needed. And we do have a campus technology assistant on every campus, and they facilitate 2 campuses, and they all have different viewpoints on how to use that personnel as well. Some will do an every other day schedule with a half day on Friday, and some do a half day and half day. So it just depends on the campus and what the principal has deemed most appropriate for their staff. We realize that since that is a campus-based decision and all the technology resources that we have are based on campus improvement plans and campus technology as part of the campus improvement plan, I want to make sure that I'm facilitating it in the way that the teachers and the principals see as most effective. When I go in, I always model our current model of CI and continuous improvement. We use the Baldrige model, where it's plan, do, study, act. Plan is going to bring forward the ideas, the basis of why we're doing what we're doing that day in the lesson. So we will always start it out with our curriculum goals and the big ideas that we want to utilize for learning that day, and we move on to do, and that's what we're going to do during the course of the lesson. This is going to be the activities, the interactions with the students, between their peers or with the teacher them. And this is the learning that's going to take place during the time. The next one is going to be study, and that's when we actually look at, did we master? How did we master? How do we prove that we mastered? This is going to show us our data, and we're still working on how we process the data and make that real for students, and allowing them to get that feedback so that there's that model of feedback going into each lesson, that they're showing mastery, that they're achieving their goals, that they're making. And then we move into ACT, which is the differentiation, the interventions, or moving forward into the next concept or the next objective. And it's proving to be a great model for our students to really be able to be part of and interact with the learning that takes place in the classroom. And it's showing some great positive achievement for our students and our campuses. We also model our cooperative learning. We found that the research really supports that, yes, it's a great intervention for our ESL students and our ELLs. However, it's really great for all of our students, and they need those peer interactions, they need that feedback, and it's a great way of pulling that out of the lesson and providing another way. So we model those as well as the technology tools that we have, and we're trying to provide the best practices when you pull out a technology tool into the classroom, integrating it within our own curriculum and making sure that all of that matches. So we're not asking them to do something completely different or completely outside of what we already asked them to do within the curriculum, and we're just supplementing a differentiation or an intervention or a strategy that would allow new learning to take place or in a different way. And we really want to get that Bloom's level of thinking higher, and we want them critical thinking, we want them analyzing, and we want them creating, and so they're going to internalize that learning a whole lot better. And we've found that focusing the instruction this year towards the campuses has been a great way of boosting student achievement overall. And we have really pulled out a couple of our priority campuses, as you'll hear from my colleague later. We've used our 3 priority campuses to do a different model, and so we wanted to see how the difference between what we were doing and what we could be doing. And so she focused on a few programs that we already had in place, and then showing, are the teachers using it with fidelity, and is it really producing anything? And so we want to actually get all of that data and present it to our coordinators that are working on the curriculum and our curriculum writers, so that they know, well, if the teacher is spending this much time on this and it's showing this little of improvement, then maybe we need to look at a better program. Or if this is a program we have to use because it's part of the curriculum and it's really going to do, then maybe we lessen the amount of time. Or it becomes an intervention, or it becomes a strategy for lower performing students, and or a tutoring outside of school class time that allows a tier 1 versus a tier 2 or a tier 3, or that, you know, we just limit it for the ones who have already met a goal, and we just want to make sure that that still goes into those best practices, that we're utilizing the strategies and the technologies in the best way. And if they're not the best way, then what are going to get those goals and student achievement levels up, especially on those priority campuses where they already struggle. And what you'll find later is that we definitely still are struggling in that area because we don't have the teacher buy-in, and sometimes we've got the principals on board, or sometimes we don't have the principals on board, as you'll see. And so the allocation of our personnel that's coming in to do this have been a little bit different. We have 2 people who are at the elementary level, and we split the campuses down the middle of the district. And so I have 9, and my colleague Jeff has 8. And then our priority campuses, we have 3, and so Nancy has those. And so you'll hear from them a little bit later. So my campus improvement plans, bottom line, A, we want to boost student achievement. B, we want to boost the implementation. And C, we're implementing a SAMR model, so it's substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And we are going about implementing that on each campus. We want to do professional development for our administration staff, and then we want to do it for the teachers, and then we want to go from there to start actually pulling that into the classroom interventions. We're recording, but I can edit. Okay, so we are reviewing our campus professional development plans. Let's talk about what went well and what was the best thing that you did this year.
I think the best thing that I did this year was putting a deep integration plan into place at Spring Garden Elementary School. You know, we went from doing the 30-minute training sessions with staff after school to doing a full day of training on the campus. So instead of spending 30 minutes with the entire staff, I get to spend 45 minutes with each grade level. So effectively it gives me an opportunity to work with them on integration within lesson plans and to kind of go deeper into questions they might have about how to use those instructional technologies such as Nearpod, Socrative, and Kahoot.
When you went through and did, because we tried that as well, and sometimes it worked really well and sometimes it didn't, depending on the subject matter. Did you run into that same problem?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I felt like the biggest struggle I had in terms of the grade levels was specials, because they group specials together and you have art, physical education, and music all together. That was definitely the hardest group to work with because effectively I had to find an application or technology that would work for each of them in their settings, and they're very, very different settings. So for music, we came up with some applications that deal with music, identifying notes, instruments, things of that nature. For art, we use some of the drawing applications such as Paper 53, and for PE, we used one where the students could create their own music videos and lead instruction in the class. So I would say that was definitely the hardest one to kind of achieve, and I put a lot of time, effort, and energy into figuring out which ones would work specifically with that group, but given a little time, we did do that.
I'm thinking for next year that might be one of our things that we go over, because I know that's one I struggled with, and I'm sure that Nancy did the same thing, so that that would probably be a really great place for us to collaborate on for next year, because I know that I brought some out, so I'm sure that all of us, if we shared, would probably be able to come up with something, you know, that would facilitate those areas. And I know that they struggle with the technology integration because they automatically are kind of excluded from. So, what do you think worked well on your campuses?
I really liked that the principal opened up the opportunity for kids to be on the computers, because a lot of the teachers didn't want them to have access to it and only use it for programs. And so once that was opened up, then he got some of the more leaders of the teacher leaders on campus to be kind of the ambassador of the program, and they were choosing to do flip models or just using the technology in the classroom more as a tool. And so once those teachers were using it and they went and they were showing the products of what the students did, it kind of grew throughout the campus of people wanting to try it as well. Brandy at Bel-Air, once she started the flip classroom, and they had so much success there that the other teachers were able to see, hey, this really works, and so it kind of built from there, rather than it just being a directive. They actually wanted to do it because they could see it firsthand that it works.
I know that I think when we talked about, you know, music, art, and PE and what Jeff did, then, you know, that could be a great collaborative tool for us to work on next year. I think that flipped classroom might also be one of those things, since we've got a working model on one campus, we can kind of watch what she's done and kind of use that for next year into some training next year, especially as I think we're, you know, all in agreement that on-campus training has really increased the integration efforts of the teachers versus them coming out here and having less focused instruction as a whole. So, Jeff, what do you think that you would have done differently this year?
Probably, you know, I focused most of my efforts on one campus, feeling like if I could get a successful model in place there, that I could kind of extrapolate that model to other campuses. In retrospect, I probably should have focused on 2 to 3 campuses that I was working on that model with to see how it worked across across settings. I feel like it's a successful model that will definitely work. However, I feel like my other 7 campuses this year haven't gotten the same degree of attention as, say, maybe Spring Garden got. And part of that's due to the fact that, you know, Sheila, being the principal that she is, she fully embraced that model, while some others were maybe reticent about using that same model. But definitely I would have gone back and really kind of rallied to get a couple more principals on board with that model, where I got to visit with the teachers during their conference periods.
What about you?
What didn't work? I really think that it was telling these teachers that they had to do it. When my training started, it was, you're going to help these priority teachers that need the assistance, and they already had all these other people coming in to help them with actual lesson execution rather than putting the technology part in it. And they were beat down. And so it was these teachers that weren't ready for it and didn't feel comfortable with technology. So they didn't use it the way that it really could have been used. And I think that was the issue. I think that finding these people that really wanted to do it was a better opportunity to expand the actual technology tools.
Yeah, I think it's important. You've got, just like he said, the principal buy-in, but you've also got to have your teachers buy in. And you had a great example of what worked well was pulling out those teacher leaders who already have a grasp of the concept and them showing what could be there and that potential for learning and integration within using the technology that we do have available for our students.
And I do think it's an important point, because I've seen it happen a lot, where we'll go to a campus and we'll ask a principal for their input as to which teachers they would like to use in implementing technology models, and generally they go to their grade level leaders or people who are maybe already inundated with their responsibilities, and instead of choosing people who are maybe more technical and more willing to try the technologies in their classroom.
I think, especially, I went and did a training last night, and we ran into the fact that, you know, we've done these trainings, we've done specific things focused on one area, and, you know, I did the grade level through their planning periods and met with all of them, but predominantly we've done after school, where it's a larger focus and it's so spread out and such a large group that they're missing out on certain pieces and how that directly affects their students. So you've got a 6th grade teacher with a pre-K or kindergarten teacher, and they're not going to use technology in the same way. And so I think that's one of the biggest focuses that I'll work on next year, is if we're going to have a true integration, we're going to have to start at the beginning of the year with the processes of how do I utilize the resources and the people that we have on the campuses, plus the technology that we have on the campus, and what does that look like within our SAMR model. And I think that the campus felt that they were really well at teaching below the line on, you know, substitution, augmentation, but they really didn't understand what made it into, even though we made that correlation with Bloom's and everything else, it really didn't make it into the classroom. Right. So that was one of their...
And I saw the same sort of thing at my campus. But I think we kind of knew, starting this model, that most of our teachers would be at that substitution and augmentation.
Absolutely. But it was really good because the principal was able to see firsthand what I've been seeing and running into as a roadblock, because I have to be able to get in and model with the teachers that are acceptable, you know, and want to come and see, and they want to learn a different way to do this, and they want to see their kids successful, you know, and really be able to use those higher level thinking skills and being creative and really embracing that using technology. And so I feel like the principal was able to kind of see a different side to her staff and where their confusion was coming from, and where, you know, as a full staff, what we needed. And so we are coming up with a plan to kind of tweak that for next year.
And we might want to consider for next year, maybe, I mean, going forward, because we do a lot of instructional videos, and I think they're good, but maybe what we need to do is actually start recording ourselves working with the class
Mm-hmm.
and presenting that information to the teachers too, so they can see what that, rather than just seeing
Mm-hmm.
how the technology works, see how it works in the classroom and
Yeah.
what that model would look like in their classroom.
Well, and I feel like our team is really good at, cooperative learning strategies, even with technology. I think we model the continuous improvement model within the lesson, and we're very good at the formative assessment piece and, pulling those pieces into each lesson that we do so that we're constantly modeling best practices. And I think that's something that we've all done really well.
I think we have a really big opportunity with the new teacher conference too, because getting them, it's a lot of our problem is generational differences between
Mhm.
people, because our older teachers, the veterans that are fantastic teachers, they don't want to use technology because they want to do what they've always done because they know it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as we bring these millennials in
Mhm.
and that they're very comfortable and they want to
Mhm.
use it and
Mm-hmm.
it's second nature to them,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll see the results and maybe that'll just kind of
And I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to shake up for next year, because I'm noticing, and Spring Garden kind of went through this as well, but that push, because our demographics are changing so dramatically on some of these campuses, the tried and true is not working, and we're not reaching our student populations anymore. And so our, mature staff that have that tried and true method, and it has worked in the past, and they've gotten great results from their students. The students aren't coming with the same knowledge. They aren't coming with the same, opportunities that they did in the past, because their demographic is completely different. And I think that the standards are getting tougher, but our students are coming in with less. And so it's making that gap even bigger. And so I think that as a district, we're going to see that over time, that we're not going to meet those same expectations for academic success that we've met in the past if we don't embrace some of this and kind of change some of our focus.
And I know this is the first year where the teachers were really held accountable to any degree for technology
Mhm.
integration with the use of our SAMR
Mhm.
model. So what I'm hoping for going forward is that there will be a greater degree of accountability, and that we can really maybe kind of hold their feet to the fire a little bit, because I understand that we're looking at the millennials and the kids who are digital natives, and a lot of times we kind of enable teachers just with that generation piece, to say, well, you're older, you don't understand the technology. But part of me feels like, what, you're doing the kids a disservice by not integrating this into your
Mhm.
instruction, and it
Mhm.
needs to be happening.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a hardball approach, but realistically it needs to be happening, because the
Mhm.
kids are definitely at a disadvantage because of it.
Mhm. I know that because I worked heavily with the GT population, and that was kind of one of my focuses this year. Several of them said, I don't want you in my classroom. I don't have time for that. And I even had some principals who said, I don't have time for that. And I think it's interesting that the ones who did embrace have seen, oh, well, paper portfolios aren't working anymore. And that's not really, putting my kids at any advantage over a regular program, because they're doing the exact same thing. They just maybe have to answer a few more questions instead.
Different by design.
Yes, and so that was definitely one of the things that we're going to work with the curriculum writers over the summer, and look at changing that focus into how we question the students, and how we, giving guiding questions as the topic, rather than this is what you're going to look at, and this is what we're going to read, and this is the question you're going to ask for it, and less scripted. So as you heard, that was our elementary people discussing their campus improvement plans, and Jeff, like I said, he has 8 campuses. I have 9 campuses, and Nancy has 3 campuses, and those are our priority campuses. And we really wanted to know what each other were doing, and what worked well and what didn't work well. So that was kind of the questioning that we based off of that. We really found some similarities and some differences on how we actually implemented that, and that was kind of the whole point of the year, was how do we see this as individuals? Let's model it let's see how it goes, and then let's come back at the end of the year and say, okay, these are going to be our best practices. This is how we want to model a campus technology improvement plan. This is the first year that we've actually done campus technology improvement plans as part of the CIPs for the campuses, and I've found that my principals are completely 100% on board with me coming in and acting as an advocate for them and for their teachers. And I found that they just didn't understand the role of instructional technology in the past as being that advocate for them. And I really felt like they felt like someone was in their corner. They understood what that implementation meant, and that they felt like we really were more integrated into what their campus was doing and wanting to be a part of their goals and wanting to see that achievement for them. And we've seen a big boost in the use of technology and the use of instructional best practices and the use of the CI process and these different things. And so I think that being able to kind of let our individual styles of teaching and instruction and building confidences with the teachers and building the relationships on the campuses really has driven the goals for the campus technology plans on the campuses this year. And I think focusing based last year we had multiple grade levels, so I would have 7 elementaries, and then I had 3 junior highs, and I had a high school. And the high school was a alternative education program, and I took care of the elementary and secondary as well, and all of their gradebook concerns and things like that. So this year, having all elementary has really focused my instruction to be able to help those coordinators work on specific goals, and then the teachers on specific goals. I only had the grade levels within those campuses to really focus that instruction and to focus my efforts on the professional development that would actually help them the best and to be most effective within those areas. And so I felt that while we were thinking about the different processes, while we were thinking about the ways that we did things, I think that we found some really great ways to... I felt that we really connected on a lot of the different items that we discussed, and we have a great plan for next year. I think pulling our resources and our ideas and how we manage things this year, that we've really got some great ideas to share with our principals next year, and I think that we're going to have a really great implementation plan to go forward. As far as the evaluation goes, we talked a little bit already about what went well and what went, not so well, and what didn't work, and I really felt that talking about it with everyone allowed me to really think about the process of what really did go well. How did I manage to evaluate that? How did I come about that thinking? And so I took the data from the teachers and how they felt after the trainings. I did a pre-assessment so that they were able to say, I need more on this, or I need more on this. I feel comfortable with this, but I want to be able to use it in this way. And so having them give me some of that information beforehand allows me to tailor that professional development to them and to bring in resources that would allow them to utilize the stuff that we do already have in place for them. And it allows me to actually work with the curriculum writers and get lessons in there that have that implementation already in place, so that they're not having to create something in advance for curriculum that's already been written. And we found that we are going to actually work with the curriculum writers, the facilitators, and the curriculum coordinators to see about upping the amount of time we work with them in addition to our campuses, and allowing us to actually be a part of the curriculum walkthroughs, so that when the teachers are learning about what curriculum goals and standards that are in place for the year and what have changed, or what they want to stress instead, or what the data last year has shown us that we need to change or to move forward, what strategies need to be in place, that we can actually help facilitate that as well, and that we can be modeling the same things when we go back to the campus. And one of the things that I just loved this year about the implementation plan was that the teachers actually allowed me to come into the classroom and model. And so we co-taught, we modeled the lessons, the students interacted with me and with the teachers, and it gave them a whole different focus and a new way of learning. The strategy itself is not anything new, but it's new for the way that we have implemented it in the past, and it's really worked well. I've got some great feedback from my teachers and from my principals. I felt like they really latched on to the model lessons, and then they went forward, and I would gradually release. We would do one class. I would completely model the lesson and go from point A to point B, and then the next class would come in and they would be able to take a little bit more ownership of the lesson, and by the end of the day they were teaching without any assistance at all, and they really felt like they were supported in the implementation. They really were supported in the new learning, that someone was there, so if anything happened, they had something there to kind of buffer if they made a mistake, or they had the option to fail if they really needed to learn from that. And that gave them a whole new way of learning for themselves and for that professional development piece. I felt that we really analyzed some of the data that we were collecting, and part of the, it's not the professional development side, but our software and hardware side, and working with our campus technology assistants and our library media assistants, and having this team of 3 people who will answer every email that comes in about a technology concern. And we were analyzing how that process works and how it doesn't work. And I've worked with HR this year to work on how we evaluate the processes that we use for the campus technology assistants, and allowing them to have a different focus. And they are not teaching assistants. They are not actually interacting with students for the main focus of their job, but they do impact student achievement by ensuring that the teachers have the resources and tools readily available, or that someone is there to fix them. And they're not always on campus, so that's where I come in. And I've noticed this year that we have doubled and sometimes tripled the amount of requests coming in from the teachers, and we are at a 90% accuracy of responding in 24 hours and getting that problem fixed in that time frame as well. There are certain limitations, ordering a bulb for their projectors or parts that we do not carry on hand, but for the most part we're able to fix things very quickly. The satisfaction surveys have come back overwhelmingly popular of the system that we've implemented this year, and the CTAs have really felt a lot more comfortable with being able to do their job without having to cover classes, things like that. And so it's kind of made a great team because the librarian can step in instead. We do have a lot of librarians being pulled for interventions, and so during that instructional period the libraries are completely shut down. However, they do have computers in most of our libraries, and so that becomes a meeting space for classrooms that need to split for interventions or for a technology for the students who don't necessarily need that intervention, while the lower performing students get the interventions in the classroom with the teacher. And so it allows for some differentiation than we've had in the past, and working out those systems with those personnel and providing them some professional development as well as we work with, and how we work with each other, and making our communication professional, and working with the teachers and working with parents and the administrative staff, and just making sure that everybody is on the same page. And it's been a better way of implementing technology in the classrooms and on the campuses in a better way. So I really feel that we have been effective, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that number grow next year and showing even more so about how much professional development we have done. And I've put some graphs and data together, and I have completed 222 hours of professional development this year on my campuses alone, and I've completed another 40 hours of professional development at the district level. I went through each campus and how much I spent time-wise on each campus, and I'm going to be presenting that to the principals so that they can see how they affect what goes on their campuses, and if they're noticing a lack in that, it's because they haven't given that opportunity. And so that's going to open up some observations for me to be able to come in and say, if we are struggling with this, notice one campus has 22 hours, you have 4, so maybe that's part of the problem. So timing and making sure that we actually make time, and that you're asking for your staff to get these resources, and for me to come in and model, and really knowing and understanding what my place and role is on the campus or not. We want to definitely make sure that it is a need. It's not a, we thought this was a cool professional development, but have no use for it in reality. And so we just want to make sure that our principals are on board. That's part of that campus technology plan, as part of the continuous improvement plan, and just moving forward with the feedback and modeling the same things that we would do in the classroom. And so the action plan, if, you know, next year, I think that we will definitely continue. We will definitely look at what worked well and further that. I know we had a couple that we brought up, the flipped learning and working with our fine arts departments, that really felt like they were not part of the general population that got the support that they needed. And I really feel that those will be some great areas next year. Giving them the feedback of what I was able to present on each campus, how that affected them, how their teachers felt about that, and where we are in consideration to those technology goals and implementation goals that we've set at the beginning of the year, and how we need to modify those for each campus, and kind of look at some of the action plans that we want to put into place on each campus, and then we'll put that into our CIPs. And I know that the principals were very excited about the changes that we implemented this year, and I do know that this is my first year working with this set of principals, and so this was all learning experience for everyone, and so it's really been a positive change. And last year I worked on the other side of the district, and so they didn't have that same personality that they were used to, and we've really made a positive gain in that, and so that's been really great. And we really found that it's worked well. Our personalities work well together, our implementation styles and our teaching styles are all very well matched, and focusing on the elementary, which is my undergrad certification, is much better suited, even though I loved working with the high school and the junior high, and I absolutely would do it again in a heartbeat. That was definitely my passion, was teaching the younger students and really getting the technology within those classrooms to really make the impact that it could, especially on our priority campuses and our priority classrooms. We're noticing a big trend in our district that the more affluent schools are seeing some challenges in their demographics changing, and we really want to make sure that we're meeting those teachers' needs, because they don't have the option to continue teaching the same way every year anymore, and they're really going to have to put some effort into those changes, and we're going to be there to support them, and I feel really good about that.